Hey everyone, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to the show. Today, Tyler Prater out of St. Louis, Missouri. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Really appreciate it.
This is cool. So you and I have never met before until 3 minutes ago.
No,
but
very true.
your name has been circulating in circles, and I just love hearing about different guys with that are coming up through the fire service that are starting to speak on a national level. They're starting to talk at conferences. They're starting to put together programs based on their own experiences. I know St. Louis, Missouri is a fire town. I know you guys go to work. You're currently on the rescue company there. Does St. Louis run one rescue, or is it more than that?
There's two rescues. Obviously, Rescue 2 is the better rescue, but
well played.
Yeah, we cover the north side of town, so we're a tad busier than the south side rescue.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there. So you're currently on Rescue 2, north side of the city. I would assume you guys are going to confirm fires, rescues, tech, all that, right?
Yeah, so typically we don't get dispatched on medic runs unless it's a fill-in or a fill-in for our pumper. Pumper 29 is stationed with us as a busy rig. They're about 4,000 runs a year.
Okay.
And so every once in a while we'll get kicked in to fill in for them. And here lately we've been in quite the manpower crisis, and they've actually been shutting Pumper 29 down quite a bit for manpower. So we've been picking up a lot of their runs here lately, but yeah, typically how it's supposed to go, we're dispatched on every report of a fire in our area. So our fires generally come in as a still alarm, which is a 3-pumper. I'm from the Midwest. Pumpers are engines for all my East Coasters.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's old school for me.
Yeah, 3 pumpers, a hook and ladder, a chief, and a rescue squad on a still alarm. And then once they confirm the working fire, you get 2 additional pumpers and an additional chief. Is typically
so for a confirmed job, you're getting 5 engines, 2 trucks, or 1 truck.
So this is where it gets weird. We were, St. Louis, we had that Quint concept going on in the 80s and 90s. So those pumpers could be Quints.
Okay.
But the pumpers could not be a Quint. It just depends on your location, because we're slowly trying to phase the Quints out and go back to standard pumpers. But we're not all there yet, and then currently our whole reserve fleet is Quint. So if we have a company that's riding in a reserve, it's a Quint. So so typically it's an order of arrival type scenario. So whether if you're on a pumper or a Quint, if you're second to, you're handling the first 2 truck work.
Got it.
So we handle that by order of arrival.
Got it. And then the rescue company itself. So what's your staffing on the rescue?
So we got 6
Nice.
on the rescue. Yeah,
Nice.
It's nice. We are very when we're fully staffed, we are very blessed in manpower, and even in comparison to the rest of St. Louis County. We have four guys on a crew for the engines and Quints and pumpers, and then 6 on the rescue. So I think roughly we get close to 40 guys on a first alarm fire within minutes.
Which is
incredible.
fantastic.
We have such an aggressive culture. We have 3, 4, 5 trucks showing up at the same time. Everyone's stepping off and going to work at the same time. People arguing with whose fire is who because they all showed up at the same time. It's really an aggressive culture here in St. Louis for sure.
But the choreography is beautiful, right? And they dance, right? It's a symphony, and that's what I love about that, right? Is like those neighborhood companies are chomping on each other's heels coming in, and everybody goes to work accordingly. And I think that's the big thing about it, right? Is like the well-organized machine that it is. It
is. So a few years ago, we switched to GPS dispatching, or the AVLs and the rigs, and that was kind of a big change for us because still areas changed. What was the traditional still area for one company changed a little bit when GPS kind of went into play. So when a still alarm goes out, we have a lot of aggressive companies that will load up in the truck, and they'll start driving towards the fire, non-urgent. And then as soon as that working firebox hits and the AVL pings them, they're a couple blocks closer than the neighboring company.
Yeah, guys are getting
they get the hit, and they're we call it creeping. So they're out creeping jobs. So it really is a fun place to work.
Yeah, I love the 6 on a rescue. So I'd love to just pick your brain real quick on a first alarm structural fire.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing inside-outside teams? Do you guys typically, the rescue is doing truck-type work, or will you push a line?
We're because of the Quint concept, the rescue company, our fires were typically the truck company, the standard everyday truck company. So we split up into 2s. We have an inside crew, we have a roof crew, and then the captain and another member, kind of a utility in between, if opening up the rear, outside vent type stuff, and then kind of filling in the holes where it's needed. But we're pretty aggressive about getting up on the roof if we have to. A lot of times, our hook and ladder crews will get the ladders in place and get it ready to go for us. And then it's actually the rescue guys that are up on the roof cutting the holes in St. Louis.
Got it.
It's a very rare day. Do you actually ever find a ladder guy up on a rooftop?
Is that right? Why? They're too busy inside opening up in searches?
Yeah, it's so with that Quint concept, that hook and ladder, it really kind of takes the first two truck roll as far as searches go. So typically the hook and ladder goes in and starts that fire floor search, and then the rescue company is the one that's actually getting up on the roof and cutting holes. It's definitely a unique platform. It's traditional, but not. It's all the traditional things are being done, but it's adapted to kind of fit our unique bubble we have here in St. Louis with the vacant buildings, with the brick buildings, and all the old buildings that we have that we can still get in and dance around in. And then that transition between the Quint concept too is kind of what's morphed us into what we are today.
Yeah, well, I get it. I mean, I remember as a kid reading about St. Louis on the cutting edge of the Quint concept, right? And it was, a lot of your engine companies were getting aerial devices put on top, and they're an engine company but can double down as a truck company. But what's funny about that is what is old is new, what is old is new, right? And so, you guys are starting to fade away from it, from what I know, and some other cities have too, because it just didn't prove its worth. I think it added more complication to the process.
It really did. So the Quint concept was a short-term problem, a short-term fix to a long-term problem. There was a little bit of a financial crisis in the 80s when that all went down.
Right.
And the brainchild we had a very progressive chief at the time. I believe he was Chief Satanics, and he came around and he said, "Hey, look, like I either got to close, I forgot what it was, 14 companies, or I can smash you all into Quint companies, and so I can keep firehouses open.
Yes,
I'm still cutting companies. We cut manpower through attrition, and it was kind of the best way to go through that fix at the time. But as we progress through that, we're on our fourth generation of the Quints or the St. Louis style Quints that we run, and it's the 2000 model Quints we still have in service as reserves. And they're still kicking, and it's incredible the amount of hours
the amount of work they've seen, right?
The amount of work. I drove in a reserve that it was something ridiculous, like 20,000 hours on it or something, you know. And it's but they're still kicking, and they've seen a lot of work. But that typically or realistically, the city kind of came back and said, "Hey, it's starting to cost a lot of money to have to maintain 36 aerial devices within the city every day." And really that kind of killed the truck culture, because all those old guys that worked on a dedicated truck company, this is my thought process, it seems like every truck guy, they might not tell you want to be an engine guy, but every truck guy wants to go fight the fire, pull that line off, get that glory every now and again. So we gave these truck guys the options to be engine company firemen again, and it seems like they always deviate back to being engine company firemen. So we weren't very good at keeping that truck culture alive when everything became Quint, because everyone had the option to pull a line off and throw water on a fire if they had to.
Yeah.
So and that's still an obstacle we face today. Our hook and ladder companies is what we would consider our trucks in St. Louis. They're still Quints. They're either 100-foot platforms or 125-foot sticks. So is what we run as our truck companies, what we call them hook and ladders, and it's well within our SOPs, and it's up to the discretion of the first two officer. If you roll in first on a hook and ladder on a fire, these guys are leading off. They're taking a line off, and they are now an engine company. It gives them the variety to be able to do that. Does that kind of create problems for the rest of us? It does, because now we have to adapt and overcome.
Yes, that's it.
Things not kind of being in the way that would be preferred. So.
Yeah, simplicity is a beautiful thing, and we start throwing some wrenches in there, man. It gets complicated very quick, especially when you got companies upon companies coming in real fast on each other. There's not a lot of time to call an audible and have people react. So, yeah, I get that completely. Yeah. How'd you find your way to the rescue company? I got it. In most places, a rescue company is kind of prestigious. It's a place that you work towards to get
Yeah.
into.
So I really think it had something to do with really kind of my motivation, my upbringing as a volunteer. So I grew up in small town Missouri, about an hour south of St. Louis. In that small town volunteer fire department, I loved it. I lived it. I breathed it. I was a junior.
Yeah, I love that.
I was a junior there. I went to all the trainings, but I was blessed to have a great training program as a volunteer firefighter. So here I am as a volunteer, going and getting rescue or rope rescue certification, swift water certification, dive certification, all these tech rescue certifications, because in the rural world, every truck has to be a rescue company. We can't just call a dedicated rescue.
That's right.
So out in the volunteer world, you could be the first to engine, you could be the first to truck, or you can be the first to rescue, all out of the same apparatus. So and I was young too, in coming out of high school. So as a senior in high school, I went to the what we call the area technical school. It was a high school program. So the first 4 hours of my day in high school, I went to the college, to the fire academy, and got 4 hours of the fire academy
awesome.
every day, and graduated with Missouri's Fire 1 and 2 in my National Registry of EMT. So 18 years old, graduated high school, I am primed and ready to get hired somewhere on a job. And I tried, but a lot of the places in St. Louis, or at least in Missouri, required you to be 21 years old to get on the job. So I was lucky. I put in for St. Louis. St. Louis didn't have that rule at the time. You think you had to be 18 or 19 to be able to apply. I applied. I did some time in the National Guard in between, which gave me a little bit of a veteran's preference in the hiring process in St. Louis. And then
Sure.
and there you go. I made the first class. I got the letter when I was 19 years old.
19 years old. Come on.
Yeah, and then I took the job just after my 20th birthday to come on in St. Louis.
Wow.
Yeah,
awesome.
So I grew up in a firehouse, and
this is all you know.
Yeah, it is all I know, and I have this conversation a lot. If I look at all of my senior men that I work with, they all had other jobs where they were firemen, they were plumbers, they were carpenters. Seems like every one of them hung drywall at some point in their life, right?
Right.
They were.
Right.
They all had other jobs that weren't related to the fire service. Well, here I am, and I might be the first or just in the middle of this new generation of firemen to where being a fireman is what I set out to do, and it's the only thing I know how to do. So whether if that's an advantage or a disadvantage, I guess that could be up for debate. But so I started off. So here's where kind of I got the touch into the rescue. So after the academy, I was assigned to Pumper 1, Rescue Squad 1 on the south side of St. Louis, cover the Anheuser-Busch Brewery, the state streets. It was a busy neighborhood, and it was all by a stroke of luck how this all worked out in my favor. So there was a rule, informal or not, that all new members had to ride with a bona fide captain in your probationary year. So instead of getting subbed out to another station, I believe at the time the rescue captain was out on injury or had some time off or something going on. So instead of them subbing me out to another station, a lot of times I got the sub over from the pumper to the rescue squad.
Rescue.
And that was pretty much my whole first year. I know a lot of the older guys complained about it. My first year at Pumper 1, I maybe only rode the pumper maybe 15 times in a whole year.
Is that right?
Yeah,
wow.
It wasn't a whole lot. And I didn't know how to be an engine company firefighter because I had run around on the rescue. And I learned my way around it, learned where the stuff was. And then again, I had a little bit of experience with a lot of these rescue tools that a lot of other big city firemen may or may not have had a whole lot of exposure to from being a volunteer, because we cut on a lot of cars in the real world.
Sure.
We hang some ropes. We do all this rescue stuff that was kind of generalized or part of our duties as a volunteer that kind of gets subdivided within a big city fire department. So I really, really kind of think that was an advantage, advantage in my favor. So after that, I kind of got an itch. I got an itch to go be a fireman, to go be an engine company guy. So after about a year in Pumper 1, I went to Pumper 24, which is on the north side, and the most fun I've ever had on a pumper company, hands down. We were going to fires, we were going to shootings, we were busy. we were having a great time riding around on the north side, just being young and just doing the job, living it for what it is, and just soaking up every minute of it. And so there was so I guess I had about 2.5 years on the job, and there were some transfers that occurred. Some people got moved out of Rescue Squad 2 on my shift, and I put my name in the hat, and I said, hey, look, like, I want to go to a rescue squad. And of course, the first answer I got was, well, you don't have enough time on, you're not old enough, get some time, and stuff like that. But then I kind of pushed back a little bit, and I said, hey, look, I have rope rescue certification, I have swiftwater certification, I have auto extrication certification, I have all the certification and training from, in time, and I have the passion to learn this. And when they kind of got to thinking, they're like, okay, this Tyler could really be the next 30-year rescue company guy if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of how I went into that. So I had 2.5 years on. I went over there as a temporary, as we call it, a sub, as a 6-month tryout period. Learned the truck, got to know the guys, and then I was lucky enough to make permanent once I hit 3 years on. And have been on the rescue ever since. And we're rolling on, we just hit year 8, and we're halfway into year 9 on the job. And it's just been an absolutely incredible experience. I couldn't imagine working anywhere else than a rescue squad. I will gladly tell you, I have the best job in the fire service working on a rescue company. There is no better job out there than being able to go to work, to be a nerd, be a nerd with some of my other nerd friends on the rescue squad, and to be able to put 6 minds together and come to a conclusion and fix something is really, really what I enjoy about the rescue squad, for sure.
What I think is really cool, and you alluded to it earlier, the way you put it, and you said, this is all you know.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. It's like you don't know really much else in the way of a career or passions for other types of professions. And so, like, this is the culmination of your hard work through the volunteers, through going to a high school program that allowed for you to get immersed into this, and then to be able now to practice your craft every single day by going into the rescue company. And you're freaking smiling about it, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's so obvious how much you enjoy it. I think it's fantastic.
I've always said to myself, it's if I wasn't on a rescue company, I don't know where I would be. I don't even know if I'd be a fireman anymore if I wasn't on a rescue company. It's just
I doubt that. I doubt that.
That's where I want to be, and that's what I enjoy doing. And we just had a promotional process come up, and I tested for promotion, and it's like, man, it's like I am going to cry some dirty tears.
Now what? Yeah,
today, right. If my number comes up and I get promoted and have to leave my beloved rescue squad, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I really don't.
Yeah, but you know, part of the process is leaving home to come back to it at another time.
Yeah.
And
so.
Yeah, you hope all roads lead back to where it is, but you also want to push yourself and challenge yourself to try something different too. And I think that that's important also. And I talk about it a lot because we have so many guys like you that want to stay in the position they're in because it's so good and they just love it so much. But we need young, excitable guys that are making some decisions for the department and laying the future groundwork. And it's hard to do that from the back step.
It is. You're exactly right. We're kind of running into that problem now where we are gradually, the department is gradually getting younger. It's gradually
100%.
gradually getting younger, gradually getting more progressive, and we have these young, motivated guys that are willing and able to really make a difference within the department. And we're just kind of waiting for these guys to make it up into the captains and chiefs ranks to really kind of start pushing through positive change and some positive progressive changes within the organization, for sure.
Yeah. I love to, you said it earlier that, your upbringing in the fire service really impacted where you are today, right? The volunteer agency being able to give you these different tech classes for you to kind of find your way. I mean, not everybody finds that, especially in a career department. If they don't have a prior background in it, they don't know if they ever will have ever get an experience with it. But also that high school program for you.
Yeah.
I just got back from a trip last week. I was out in Sergeant's Bluff, Iowa, and I was with an incredible chief out there who runs the fire service program for the high school there locally in the Siouxland area. And, they're putting out like 140 or 170 kids a year out of his program that are in love with the fire service, or at least gets a background and training in the fire service, so that when they come out, we can bolster our ranks in the volunteer and hopefully push people to go into the career. I can't, in my area in New Jersey, we don't have that. We don't have any high school programs. There's no formal education that promotes the emergency services at all. And I think we need to do a better job at that here. But for you, like how important was that for you in your beginning years of this? Like, did you find it through high school, or you already knew that this program was for you?
I did not know this program existed, but I was already a volunteer.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess this would make me fourth generation.
Wow.
Fourth generation volunteer, at least. The first one that's went career as a firefighter. My stepdad is a career paramedic captain in my hometown here. So we grew up, volunteered at the same firehouse I did.
Right.
So we all kind of grew up in that matter. So when that opportunity came around, I want to say it might have been the first or second year that this program was offered. And when I went to it, as soon as I found out about it, I went to my high school counselor. I said, I am doing this. I don't care what you got to do. We are making this happen. This is exactly what I want to do with my life. And to be able to really make that happen. So it was, I tell you what, it was tough. It wasn't an easy program per se,
right,
as far as maybe curriculum and say. It was tough for me to go to that program. So we didn't have 140 students. I think there was 12 in my class. And
wow,
out of that 12, I think maybe 3 of us graduated with their certification. And the reason for that, I think that is, and one of the obstacles of these high school programs is some of these kids were just looking to get out of school. Oh, hey, learn
that too, for sure.
Learning how to be a fireman, that sounds cool. Let's try that. And then they find
I don't have to take English.
Yeah, exactly. And they see the up tempo and the op tempo of this program, and they're like, maybe this just isn't for me. So, and that was hard for me, who was already passionate at that age and could probably realistically have passed most of the Fire 1 and 2 classes already at that point, because I just immersed myself in this lifestyle starting at 12 or 13 years old whenever I got into the juniors. And and I'm sure I was annoying to some of the instructors there. It's like, oh, I know what that is. That's what this does, and yada yada yada. So, but it was that high school program was definitely a great step in the right direction, and it actually helped me on the military side too. So, I joined the National Guard my junior year of high school. And I actually attended basic training between my junior and senior year. So I left like a few days after the end of my junior year, went to basic training, came back the day before my senior year of high school started. So talk about a culture shock to begin with, spending all summer at basic training, come back and having to be a kid again. So that already had me all messed up there. So, and then going into the Fire 1 and 2 program and being able to achieve my Fire 1 and 2, my National Registry EMT, that next summer I was signed up to be a combat medic. So that next summer when I went to combat medic school, I handed them my National Registry EMT card, and I got to skip the first 10 weeks of my job training because I was already a nationally registered EMT.
Yeah.
And
how old were you? 18?
I was 18.
19?
18. Yeah, 18 at the time. And literally went right into the combat medic phase of training and of crikes and chest decompressions and IV needles and everything, and pushing drugs and everything in between. So, and then from there went on into paramedic school with basically the paramedic training that I had already had, which made paramedic school a breeze. Unfortunately, the Army program at that time, our combat medic school only quantified to a basic license, which I already had. Even though we had advanced level training and a lot of ALS capabilities, once we finished training, we were only really nationally certified as a basic. So I went into paramedic school, had to take a lot of the same classes and skills over again, but it was it just made it easier So I actually my paramedic instructor was a retired St. Louis fireman on the rescue squad, and it actually worked out in my favor. I got my letter to attend the academy at the semester break. So I had finished my first semester of paramedic, got my letter to attend the academy. I think we started in March. So I went to him and I said, hey, look, I can't pass up this opportunity. And he's like, no, you absolutely cannot pass up this opportunity. He goes, paramedic school, we'll be here next year. So I actually did first semester, took a year off, and then came back and picked up at the second semester to finish my paramedic school. Gotcha. So, and that was another thing that really worked out in my favor too. So just, it's been.
Are you still in the reserves now?
No, I finished. I did 8 years. I believe it was like 2019 or 20 that I got out, and it was good. This is kind of where it all kind of comes together in the first responder realm. I got set up with the in the Missouri National Guard. We had the Homeland Response Force, and they were based out of Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. They were kind of like the reserve component of like your CST or like a FEMA team. Right. They were the National Guard's version of that. And once again, 19 years old, E4, slick sleeve, don't have don't have any rank or time under my belt. And I just kind of to rub elbows with the right people. They had this huge problem of trying to close the gap between military hazmat and first responder hazmat and trying to put that training out. And I became kind of that key contact for them of saying, hey, this is how you set up a pro board hazmat class, and we need pro board to satisfy military requirements. These are the contacts at your state level you need to talk about. So I spent every bit of a year and a half, close to 2 years, running around the state of Missouri teaching hazmat awareness and operations as a National Guard soldier. So and once again, I already had that training from volunteer, my fire academy in high school, and just kind of pushed right into that. And it really all kind of worked out in my favor. And it's really kind of weird how that high school program keeps delivering.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yeah, it keeps delivering these little snippets of successes for me, even still further out into my careers. How impactful that high school program is, I can't quantify for sure.
Well, and you can't quantify. That's right. But it keeps becoming a part of the conversation. And I think it has everything to do with laying down a viable foundation to work from. And I really believe that. I think that you're only as good as where you come from and the foundation that was laid before you, and then what you're contributing to make it even stronger. So a good base lets you fly, man.
Yeah.
I believe that. That's pretty cool. So fast forward now back to it, right? So we're going along your career here, and I love the reason why I kind of want to fast forward a little bit is we talked about the makeup of St. Louis and a little bit of your background, but I know for you, going to fires is a way of life, and you enjoy that. On top of all the tech stuff, we're going to talk about Muddy River training consultants, Muddy River divers. These are all things that you've created and developed. But I want to talk about the fire culture real quick. Occupied until proven vacant. Touchy conversation in the American Fire Service today, my man.
Dude, so that's really kind of blown up over the last couple of weeks. That was kind of something I kind of came up with in conversation. In the occupied until proven vacant, you might think, okay, we're talking about searching vacant building fires. Part of that is searching vacant buildings, but a lot of the same concepts that come up in this program can be attributed to occupied buildings too. And a lot of that kind of starts with Jeremy, what's your definition of a vacant building?
Exactly.
What is it? It's different. It's different for everyone.
That's right.
Are the lights on?
It has.
Yeah.
Right.
Are the lights
on? It has everything to do
home?
with size up. Right. What does it look like? It could be. Is it occupied or vacant if somebody lives there but they're not there at that moment, or is it a derelict property and there's homeless? It runs the gamut, right? And I think is that part of what you focus on though? Is trying to put definitions to terms that we throw around, because we all know how terrible the fire service is in standardizing our approach, and every zip code is very different, right?
Every zip code's different, and I always like to say, hey, I don't care what words you use, as long as you and your mutual aid partners and everyone around you is on the same page. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the key part. We still have this problem in St. Louis where we show up, I'm on the scene of a 2-story brick vacant, fire showing, one line off, primary search underway. We are in the habit of we primary search every building fire we go to. Every fire, if it's an interior fire and we can occupy that space, we are getting in there some way or somehow. In St. Louis, we put our fires out from the inside out.
Love it.
That's how we do it. And in taking that mindset into the real world, kind of tapping back to when I was able to go back home after I started in the career service and go back and kind of catch some volunteer jobs at home. It's like, man, how do I apply this to modern building construction? How do I apply this to where I'm 25 and 30 minutes away from a house fire response? And a lot of that is exactly like you said. What are those definitions? Are we all on the same page? Are we all moving forward with the right mindset? And a lot of people want to come out and say, hey, NFPA ruined the search culture for us, or this person ruined this, or this person ruined that. Well, has anybody ever went through and read the NFPA JPR for search and rescue of a building fire? It literally says, wear your appropriate PPE and go in and search a building fire. It doesn't tell you how to do it or when to do it or where to do it. It just says get in there and do it. So that's the mindset that we really, really kind of need to take in the American Fire Service. And I really think we are heading in that way. We're heading in that direction. Think of like the early 2000s where it was like hit it hard from the yard, positive pressure attack, exterior water application, kind of took the industry by storm because that was the way we interpreted the data that had came out at that time. And then now we're like, okay, wait a second, let's take a second look at this. We've had 10 or 15 years to really use this, and we're not getting the results that we want. So the only way we can get in and rescue these people out of building fires is to get in there and occupy the space. I have turnout gear on that can protect me inside of an IDLH environment. That person does not. I need to exploit my abilities as a fireman, my training, and my PPE to go in there, search that building, and pull the person out. That's our job. That's what we're here for, and we need to take all the red tape off of it and put firemen into fires where they need to be, hands down. That's being a fireman.
Listen, do you hear my silence? Like I'm biting my tongue because this is what needs to be said. And we years ago, yes, man, the pendulum swung and we swung out too far. This safety culture, which is a broad stroke that so many people are throwing around today about risk little, save little, risk a lot, save. Like, none of that shit applies. What applies is we learn our job and we do our job correctly, and in return, we'll know when the building cannot be searched versus searched.
Yeah.
If there's and even like survivable space and all these terms, like we can throw around all the terms in the world. I don't know what a vacant building is. I don't. I don't know to say that this one is vacant and this one is not, or this is occupied or this is not. I don't know that. I know if the building's on fire, we have a job to do, and part of that job is to make sure that nobody's inside. Now, if we get inside and we start searching and the building is not conducive or fire volume is not conducive to a search under appropriate conditions, then we need to vacate the building. But I don't know why we have to broad stroke, or we swung way too far out on the idea that that building looks and deemed vacant. We don't need to risk ourselves to be put in there. You could die very quickly by the chimney falling on you on the exterior as well.
Yeah, there's and that's part of it too, and part of the experiences that my crew has had in St. Louis. We have been in occupied buildings with utilities, electric and gas and water, that are in worse off shape than vacant buildings that are boarded up with no utilities any day of the week. And to our advantage and our disadvantage, the majority of our neighborhood, the majority of our still area, and I might butcher this number, is between 50 and 60% vacant. Mm-hmm. So that we're going to two out of every 3 fires we go to are in vacant buildings. When we catch an occupied building, occupied for us means someone's actively living there, it has utilities, it's semi taken care of. That's a treat for us to go in there and go into an active building, to an active occupied building, search it, put that fire out, keep it from spreading, save these people stuff. But on the flip side, we consistently, year after year in St. Louis, rescue more people out of boarded up buildings than we do in occupied buildings.
You're going to more fires in them.
consistently. Yeah,
right.
consistently.
What do you guys in St. Louis? What do you consider vacant? Like, do you have that in your SOGs or SOPs about what a vacant building is, or no?
So
Just curious.
typically for us, a vacant is boarded up. A board up, grass is tall.
So like an abandoned property,
an
basically.
abandoned. More, I guess the better word would be derelict. Derelict property,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a conversation I actually had with if you happen to know Chris Tobin and Lex Shady from their podcast. Conversation I actually had from them was we said, well, maybe we need to change up our definition from vacant to occupied to derelict, because a derelict property could still be occupied or vacant. We've all rolled up to, like we said earlier, those occupied buildings that are literally falling apart. They have no money to repair their home. They're doing the best they can with what they got. But
and listen, as this inflation in the economy, even in the nicest of communities, there's going to be some derelict homes that are starting to fall into disrepair.
So, but identifying the vacant properties, I don't think is as important as identifying what that building is telling you to begin with. Regardless if that building is occupied or vacant, derelict, boarded up, fallen over, or whatever it is, as a firefighter, we have to be able to go up and size that building up, understand the structural integrity of it. What year was that building built? Has it been renovated? Has it been cut up? What is going on with this building? And I always like to tell people that first do size up we hear on the radio, maybe even the first do size or the size up of the battalion chief, be skeptical of that size up as an individual firefighter. Don't take what they're saying as gospel. Get in there, be skeptical, take a look at do your own size up, take a look in your own eyes of what you think is right, wrong, and indifferent, and come up with your own plan on how to take that size up and apply that to the task that you're assigned to do on the fire ground. And that's how we can be aggressive in these fire buildings. This is how in St. Louis we're aggressive. We're aggressive because we are blessed enough to do it often, but we're aggressive because we're able to take a second thought and a second look at things and say, okay, yep, I can get this one. Nope, can't get that one. And really use that to our advantage. And in the size up, the whole size up aspect of it is, in my opinion, the most important part. And it comes down to training, initial entry training, initial level training is we are not very good at teaching firefighters how to think for themselves. And that's industry-wide. It's whether if it's micromanagement, if it's rigid SOGs or SOPs, we do not teach firemen how to think for themselves. And that's kind of that's kind of where that program, Occupied Until Proven Vacant, kind of came up. This is not cutting edge material. I'm not doing anything different than these guys have been doing in their whole lifetime. Maybe I rope it into a different layer or into a different direction of how I present this material. But the thought process is I want you as the firefighter to think. Sit back, think outside the box, soak up the information. The information's free. You don't have to run around and pay or ask for a line item in your budget to say, hey, chief, I need a line item in the budget to be able to go read these buildings. No, you don't have to pay for that. You can drive, on your way to the grocery store, on the way back from a run, drive the rig down a block you haven't been down in a while. Get out, take a walk down the sidewalk, take a walk down the alley. I tell you what,
have some conversations.
We run into buildings all the time. They look absolutely pristine from the front, nice tuck pointing, new windows. We walk around the back, and the whole back is gone of it. You got to understand the death of a dying building or the death of a brick building in St. Louis is it's a unique experience, to say the least. To be able to,
I believe that. There's so much here, right? I mean, we just tackled in the last 4 minutes. This could be a 12-hour conversation.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting, though, is that conversation of allowing firefighters to think for themselves. I always talk about initiative, and how do you teach initiative? The only way you teach initiative is you give them a foundational education on what we expect from them, and then they have to actually go out and gain experience in order to know how to have the intuition to do the job correctly. It's the same mindset that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah. And this is where people get tripped up. And I have people approach me all the time. And they say, hey, Tyler, my volunteer department runs 100 calls a year. Out of those 100 calls, we might do 1 or 2 structure fires. How do I gain the experience to be able to operate like you do on the fire ground? And my answer to that is training, right?
Yes.
when we look at high performing teams, take the Olympics, for example, right? That's a once in a 4-year event, the Olympics. Those athletes trained every day for the last 4 years to be able to perform at the Olympics.
That's right.
If we take that same mindset and apply it to the fire service, to where we up our training, we make our training progressive and to the point. And I always like to make training a group event. Okay, if you have an idea, throw it out there. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. What needs to die in fire service training is the one guy that knows everything, that stands up and runs every class the way he's always ran it. That needs to stop in the fire service right now. And it really needs to be a collaborative effort when it comes to training. Sure, you can have somebody that leads the training, that has the topic and kind of points and keeps everything within the guardrails, right? I always like to say, hey, let's have an objective and keep this training within the guardrails. But training needs to be a group effort, and we really need to be able to learn from everyone in that aspect.
I think today there's more opportunity than ever before. If you don't have enough time to actually gain hands-on experience on the fire ground, because there's nothing else that can substitute for actually game time, right?
Yeah.
And you can take all the training, you could do all the hands-on, you can educate yourself by reading and listening to podcasts, reading books, looking at YouTube, looking at different training pages, going to all the conferences in the world. It is all somebody else's experience until you actually get your hands on it to do it yourself, right? And I think that's an important thing to actually talk about, though. The Olympics, yeah, they trained for 4 freaking years to get to that moment, but nothing can compare. Even training, and the best training, can't give them that actual experience until they're there.
Exactly.
And I think what we have to do is provide every single opportunity. There's more opportunities than ever before today to better yourself, your knowledge, your hand skills, your understanding, your right to know, your theory, all that. You have all that today more than ever before, but understand that you have to rely on that when it's game time. And when it is game time, you then put your skills to the test. But when you're done, it's what you do with what you just did is what sets you apart from everyone else and gets you to the next game. And that is, what do you take away from your errors, your mistakes, your fumbles? And that is where I think you learn, truly learn, is from actually doing and making mistakes.
For sure. Some of the best after-action reviews that I've seen have been from departments that really sit down and dissect every aspect of an incident. They're pulling helmet camera footage, pulling dash cam footage, pulling radio traffic, and literally sitting down and dissecting the fire from the top to bottom. And then they're using that as a gap analysis in between what do they know and what they should know and how do we get there. So in a lot of those progressive training environments and training programs, that's what they do. And we're only making the fire service better by doing that. And collaboration is also a huge part of that too.
So really interesting, because I just had this conversation last week when I was on one of my trips, and we sat around. I had breakfast at a great company, and then we ended up sitting after breakfast for like 2 hours and just doing this, right, chatting. And one of the things came up about like after action reports and the hot wash after fires, and depending on your department's policy or guideline on how that's handled. A lot of places do it formally, and what happens is that you then take the boots on the ground and they kind of just swallow their experience that fire because they're intimidated in that hot wash to speak because it's being run by, say, chiefs or administration instead of the company, or letting your firefighters go first or whatever it is. But they don't want to fall on their own sword in front of the whole battalion. And so you really have to put together, and those progressive departments have really understood the value in getting feedback about how they operate in the mistakes made. But you have to provide a culture and environment that allows for people to be comfortable enough to talk about it, and in a way that doesn't make them look bad or management comes down on them or the company for making a mistake. It's a very delicate conversation for sure.
Yeah. And after-action reviews can be one of the greatest tools in your toolbox, or it can be one of the worst. And we can't use it negatively. We can't use it to belittle people or to make people uncomfortable.
Correct.
Because then what are they going to do? We're not going to learn. I'm just going to mess it up next time. I don't need to approve upon that. And
Look at the line of duty death, the NIOSH reports and OSHA reports. Those aren't accurate. Those guys are not sharing actual information on those reports.
no, not at all. It's
right. So it's got to be understood.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes having a second set of eyes look at your operation could be all the better.
Yes.
We have people come in and that ride along with us or stop by and buff with us. And they're like, oh, hey, how come you guys don't do it like this or run it like this? We're like, never thought of that.
Right.
We get a lot of guys that come on the job and they put their blinders on. Oh, if it's not St. Louis Fire Department, I don't need to know about it. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to look at it. I don't need to see it.
Sure.
Oh, a Pierce fire truck? I don't know what that is. We don't use those where I'm from. It's like
it's a big world, man.
It's a big world, and I really think there's a lot of great information out there. And that kind of goes. I keep going back to collaboration, and some of these programs that I've developed or helped teach with or just be a part of has come out of collaboration. Not one person can raise their hand and say this is mine. Nothing that I do can I raise my hand and say this is mine. I didn't invent firefighting, and am I going to be on the cutting edge of some kind of change? I doubt it. But I want to be able to express this information to the right people, to people that are going to take it passionately and use it to their advantage. And
listen, we only get further along in the process if we're all working together. Doesn't mean that we're yesing everyone to death. It doesn't mean that we're cheering everyone on, because there are going to be different points of view, different information coming out, and different ideas. And what we have to do is be accountable and vet one another to make sure that whatever message is getting out is accurate and transparent.
For sure.
And that's a big part of it. But I agree with you 100%. Collaboration is the best thing for us. 100%. Hands down.
And that's kind of where Muddy River Training and Muddy River Divers kind of came into play. So I started one of the greatest things to ever happen in my career so far. That's kind of put me into really kind of let me spread my wings and fly. Is I was given the opportunity about 3 or 4 years ago now to go work for Augie Matt, who owns Take the Door Training out of Syracuse, New York.
Out of Syracuse, yeah.
And
Augie's a great dude. Great dude.
Augie's
smart.
a great dude, and that's put me in touch with some of the best firemen that I will ever be able to rub elbows with. Danny Rinaldi, another one. Just had him on your show. Another incredible firefighter, wealth of knowledge. It's just all these guys that I've been able to go out and rub elbows with, and within that, those connections that we made. We're literally sitting at a training in New Haven, or near New Haven. I think we were in South Windsor, at a brewery. They have a brewery that's literally right out of the back door of their firehouse. So we're having a great time. We're hanging out, just waiting for our flights, and wrote down on a napkin was myself and Justin Yanisik from Boston. We're having some IPAs. Hey, I'm not from the East Coast, but your IPAs are pretty good. But
no doubt.
No doubt. So we're kind of scribbling down some information, and we're talking about, hey, we're both passionate about surge, passionate about RIT, but what overshadows both of that is the individual values and skills as a firefighter, and how can we put that together in a hands-on training type class. And that's where our aggressive fireground survival class kind of was born, on a napkin in a bar. There's been and with that collaboration, we kept bringing people in. We had Will Tyree from Cambridge. We had Tanner Behrens from Rockford. We had Dan Gordon from New York. All these heavy hitters come in and collaborate with us on how we can come in and take this program from an idea on a napkin to making it something that can be quantifiable and usable and effective on the training ground. And that's yep.
No, I was going to ask you. So what is, one more time? So what best traits or attributes firefighters need on what is it?
So aggressive.
The idea behind
aggressive. So it's called aggressive fireground survival. It's a combination of individual skills as a firefighter.
Yes.
And rescue intervention skills. So we're taking those skills and we're giving you some little tidbits throughout the day of, hey, try this drill, packaging a down fireman. Try this drill, self-rescue, some confidence. We're building upon those basics, but we end the day with a cumulative drill that it's been on average between an hour and a half and 2 hours to accomplish with all 25 to 30 students in the class. And we've been calling it dumpster diving. So not to spoil it a whole lot for the people that are coming to take our class, but we run a circuit through the burn tower, and it ends. We take 3 instructors and we bury them in a simulated collapse inside of a roll-off dumpster, and you're given a ready, set, go. You collaborate as a crew with some of the skills that you've learned within the class. And you literally go out, you get to breach walls, you get to cut a hole in a roof, you get to run a sawzall, you get to run a hydraulic tool inside of a collapsed building to lift a beam off of a downed fireman. We get to collaborate and put all of these skills into one cumulative drill to make this like doomsday drill, and just put guys in this environment to where it's realistic. We're using smoke. There's limited visibility. You're on air. You are burning through 2-3 tanks during this drill. People are getting fatigued. I mean, I get it. Some guys can last 1 tank. You got that marathoner on your crew that can last 5 tanks. Everyone's got different abilities on the fire ground, and we kind of are harnessing that into this class and into this drill of hey, can we come in, take somebody that's off the street and make them better for when they leave the firehouse and leave this training ground. Is kind of where all this is kind of led to. And we've had some great feedback from it so far. We've delivered it class twice, and we're scheduled to deliver it again at Wichita Hot coming up in October. So we did aggressive fireground survival at the rescue weekend in South Windsor, and then we did it at Metro Atlanta Fire Conference, and we're doing it again at Wichita Hot. And it's been an incredible experience to kind of taking the world by fire, taking the world by storm. And like I said, Justin and I, we wrote this idea down on a napkin, and then we went to the bullpen and put our heads together and started asking around and saying, hey, how do we quantify this? How do we make this work?
To be honest with you, this is the first time I've heard this, using a dumpster and using that as the collapse, right? So you have all your construction debris and everything in there.
Yeah.
And then to be able to, I mean, I'm just thinking about it in my head right now. It's freaking genius, bro.
So it wasn't my idea.
No, I mean, but even so, like, that's what I love about this, though, is like, that just put me onto a whole new idea and mindset about how we can practice different tunneling skills, things like that, for trapped and down firefighters.
It's thinking outside the box, and
I love it.
And believe it or not, so that idea actually came, and I don't know if he's going to want me to name drop him or not, but comes from Dan Gordon and Flash Fire Industries. They've been doing it for years, and
smart. I love it.
Doing it for years, and kind of their aspects, and we took that idea, and he was cool with us using that idea and modifying it to kind of fit what we were trying to do with it, and it's been great, and really thinking outside the box.
This goes right back to that collaborative thing.
Yeah.
When you're willing to share and help others develop programs, and there's no me with chest pounding, but you're willing to put it out there and allow others to piggyback on it.
Yeah.
That is how we push this job forward.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Every time we go out and teach that program, it ends up costing us money out of our pockets some way, somehow.
I'm sure.
I'm sure. But hey, it's damn fun doing it. And it's like, we're not out there to make money. We're not out there to be famous. We're out there to present a topic and to present some ideas that are a little different than everyone else's, and just get out and be passionate firemen. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. I don't care if you work in the middle of nowhere. I don't care if you work for FDNY. It's just come out, hang out, train with us. Let's get into a collaborative mindset. And we've actually adapted some of the drills on feedback from the students. The students are like, hey, that was cool, but have you ever thought about doing this, this, and this? I'm like, no, but that's a great idea, and I'm going to borrow that from you.
Yeah.
And and that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So,
that's how we grow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you got what, you have any classes coming up? You said Wichita Hot is next for you? Or?
Yeah, Wichita Hot is next on the training side, and that's the last kind of big one on the schedule for this year. I put in for a couple classes at FDIC. One of the other things that I kind of just took on is I took on a position as the Muddy River Training Consultants. We contracted with Amicus Rescue Systems to be one of their national training companies.
Awesome.
So we're in the building stages of that and trying to get some classes scheduled and pushed out for some AMCUS, and not just AMCUS, just any auto extrication training anywhere. And then on the flip side, so this all kind of started with muddy river divers, believe it or not. So with diving was one of the things I learned in the volunteer fire service, getting into the public safety diving and kind of getting some experience on the dive team. And there was just a big hole for public safety and fire service based dive services in Missouri.
Yeah,
there's no one else, and even nationwide, there's no one out there that's doing it. So that's kind of grown into something more than what I can handle too. And once again, reaching out for collaborative ideas and bringing other people on board to help us push this information out there. But we're up to with Muddy River Divers, we've done 17 different dive teams in the last 2 years. We've been really busy with that, with some public safety diver training, initial diver education, kind of starting to creep into to equipment sales and stuff like that. So that's been huge too. And then let alone now our aggressive fireground class, occupied until proven vacant, where I'm a busy man. So it's
you sure are, man. I was gonna say your schedule's got to be quite full.
Yeah,
so
my wife and I live off of our Google Calendar because she's just as busy as I am. So if if it doesn't make it into the calendar, it never happens. So
where's this all come from you though? Is it those early days of that high school class and the early days of the volunteer? I mean, there's quite a commitment and passion for all this. It's got to come from somewhere.
I mean, the fire service is my family. I mean, I had a really small family growing up, just my mom, my dad, and my sisters, and not much of an extended family. And the fire service has been that family. And I owe everything I have to this point to the fire service. And
I love that.
And this is kind of my way of giving back, but also satisfying my love for this job. You know, the love for this career field, the love of giving back. And one of the biggest satisfactions I get is being able to see a student, a firefighter, whoever, just kind of grow within a class or grow along the course of a program, and being able to go in and become effective in their scenario.
Awesome. I agree. I owe so much back to what the fire service has done for me. But I've come to realize too, brother, it is your willingness to allow it to consume you, which is where you find that unrelenting passion for it, I think. You have to almost sacrifice almost everything in the beginning to allow for that foundation to propel you forward to where you get to today in your career to give back. And I think that that's a big part of it, is that it consumed you. It consumed me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you have to let it. You have to let it.
It's tough, and it's a dance. It really is a good dance. And I found that out after I got married to my now wife, and it's like it really it's a giant dance of now. At one time growing up as a young kid, the only love I had was the fire service. Well, now I have a wife and a family, and so trying to juggle that and trying to keep the same passion. Trust me, it is taxing, but it's and I wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Well, and I think that's a big part of the conversation too. Is that's that guilty need of ours, that if we didn't have this and continually challenge ourselves within this career, within this job, we wouldn't be happy.
No, and we wouldn't. And
it's not for everybody. Like, people get caught up in that whole work-life balance thing and that conversation. I totally get it. Not everybody needs to live or want to live this every single day and every single hour. You and I, we kind of do. It's kind of who we are, and it's kind of what we do.
Yeah,
right?
I'm in a group chat with like 40 firemen from around the country, and it dings all day long. And we have conversations, and we firehouse banter back and forth. And then, and let alone, and then annoyingly, my phone will ding every few minutes because I'm looking to see what jobs the guys are going to when I'm not there, and listening to the scanner app. I mean, this job consumes us, and it's the only thing I know. Like, going back to the beginning, this is the only thing I know, and it will be the only thing I know. So
yeah, well, it shows, man, and It's something that we need more of. I think your attitude, the way you present yourself and your information, it's infectious, and that's what we need. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Jesus, you're a puppy. You're a youngin', man.
Yeah.
I feel like an old man right now talking to you. But I'm gonna be honest though, like we need more 28-year-olds with this drive and vigor and excitement for the job. Like this is you at 28 have every way with being able to get in at the ground level so early on. You are in a unique place now with your time on. You have enough experience behind you and abilities to now go and infect the younger kids, and you can relate and you understand them and you know how to talk to them and you know how to deliver information to them. That's how we move this job forward, man. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
I'm fucking 20 years older than you, pal. It's crazy.
It's all about passing it on. If someone can have an ounce of the success that and love for the job that I have, they're going to be successful. And that's all I want is to be able to spread that and to give that away to somebody else and really push them out of their boundaries and make them great firemen.
Talking with you, this thing keeps popping into my head, and it says, if we're not having fun, we're doing it wrong.
You're exactly right, and you're always talking about.
Bro, you're just smiling ear to ear the whole time in this conversation.
It's you're always asking yourself, what is the next step? And I think a lot of that is where kind of my motivation. What is the next step? Okay, cross that off the list. Where are we going next? I'm like a shark, man. I ate that fish. Where's the next one? And just trying to constantly grow and just do what I can with the short time we have in this career, and unfortunately for me, as young as I came on, coming in, starting the job at 20, I got to work 35 years to get a full pension.
Yeah.
I'll be 55. So
yeah,
I got 27, 26
You got a long way to go. I love it. And good for you.
And we'll see where we end up. But I know it's a long time to be a fireman in a big city. But it's how can we share this passion and spread this love for the job to anyone else who wants to receive it. You can't give it to everyone. Not everyone's going to want to hear it from you. But if you're willing to listen, I'm willing to give it to you. So.
I love that. Well, man, I can tell you this, that our time today has been fantastic, and I think that people that are going to listen to this are really going to understand where you're coming from, and those are the ones that are looking for it and want it. So I appreciate you joining me today, man. Tyler Prater, thank you, brother, out of St. Louis, Missouri. Rescue firefighter. He's got Muddy River Divers, Muddy River Training Consultants. Brother, where can they find you? They want to reach out. I'm sure people are going to want to reach out to you and ask you some questions after this episode.
Yeah, find me on Facebook, friend me. I love collaborating with whoever. Muddy River Divers on Facebook is kind of the main where I post a lot of the stuff. And then there is Muddy River Training Consultants on Facebook also. And, anywhere, everywhere in between, follow us, give us a like, shoot me a message, and we'll get in touch for sure.
I love it, brother. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your story today, man. It was a real pleasure to have you on. It was nice to meet you. It was good to put a face to the name and so on. So I appreciate you being here today, man. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Jeremy. I really do appreciate it.
Cool. Tyler, hang out right here. I'm going to come right back to you. Let me just sign off the podcast, okay?
Okay.
Cool. Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio podcast. As always, man, an incredible guest. And I am the luckiest guy in the American Fire Service. I get to meet guys from all over the country. Tyler, I am going to be in St. Louis in a few weeks, so I'm going to have to share some info with you and see if we can hook up while I'm out there. But guys, do me a favor. I say it all the time, but the only way we promote this job is when we talk about it. And so take this job, take it back to the firehouse, and talk about it, because when we're talking about the job, we're making the job better. I'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.